Good morning and welcome on this Thursday of Easter week. You'll see I'm in a different position because every seat I thought I would go and sit in to record this morning has a cat asleep in it. So I'm in a different corner. Anyway, all that said, a very warm welcome to you. And this week, following Easter Sunday, is a week when we recall and read about the resurrection, the post-resurrection appearances of Jesus. We'll be doing that for the next few weeks, in fact, in our Sunday worship. And I just want to share with you a little bit of something that I found that I rather liked. Once again, from the Iona community, for which I make no apology at all because their stuff really is really good. Jesus shows them his hands and his side, shows the hideous piercing that nails and spear have inflicted. And the second time he comes to the upper room, he not only shows his wounds and his scars, but he invites Thomas to touch them. The very fact that Jesus has to do this tells us that just seeing Jesus wasn't enough. It was too shocking. It was too mind-blowing. It was too confusing to see Jesus standing there, clearly alive, when they knew that he'd died by crucifixion. They'd seen it happen. It is the reality of the scars and wounds that Jesus bears that reveals to the disciples the extraordinary truth of the resurrection. It's easy for Easter to be a joyful time after the discipline of Lent, a bright celebration of spring, a new life after the greyness of the winters that we get in our country. It is joyful, but it's not a bubbly party or pink fluffy kind of joyful. It's important that resurrection is seen in the places of damage, in the scars and the wounds of life where we allow God to be within us. Resurrection is about the very different pattern that God puts onto the harsh things of life that we bring to him. Resurrection never denies the pain or the wounds of life. It's not a pretty picture covering up nasty things. It's the reality of God within us. It's the difference that God makes. It's the confusing change that turns our ideas upside down, but gives us life and hope again. Let's just stop and think in these amazing days of Easter, excuse me, where we would like to see resurrection, to see God's pattern on the wounds and scars of life. Perhaps where we personally are struggling with whatever that is at the moment, and there is so much that we may struggle with currently, what would resurrection mean for us there, here? What needs to change? In the church, we struggle perhaps to communicate the gospel in our culture today, or in the world where there is violence. I long to see resurrection in our world now. Thinking about those wounded, scarred places, the wounded, scarred and frightened people, I pray resurrection on each of those places and on each of those individuals. Easter people need to be tough. We need to be willing to stay with the cross, with the struggle, for resurrection to come. We would know nothing of the resurrection of Jesus if his followers had not radically changed their lives, indeed risked their lives, to be sure that the message and the life his resurrection gave was not lost. They, like us, lived with Easter within them. I know of people who've come to faith because everywhere they went to help in society, in the prisons, with amnesty, with refugee aid, in their local communities, they found Christians there working in the difficult places. Resurrection is at the heart of our faith. It is for every aspect of our lives today. It's worth our energy. It's worth our prayer. It's worth the challenge to our comfort. It's worth staying with the hard and the difficult. We need to look for it. We need to work at it. We need to work with it. And in doing all of those things, we will know God so much better, so much deeper, so much more profoundly in our lives and in our hearts. And in these times when there feels like there's so much uncertainty, we need that certainty, that resurrection experience, that Easter inside of us, so much more, don't we, than ever before, perhaps. Now, I've got a song, a piece of music this morning, which won't be to everybody's taste, I realise that. It was a great favourite of my own mum's, and I have to say, although it may feel a little bit twee to some, I rather like it too. And I very, very specially feel that its message at the moment about taking one day at a time is very, very important. And so, until I meet with you again tomorrow morning, I pray God's blessing, love, healing and wholeness on each one of you. Amen.